Let me ask you something. If I told you 300,000 people were killed in 6 weeks by a Japanese army that barely had enough bullets or food for itself, would you question it? Or would you nod like a good little citizen and say, "Yes, Chairman Xi, I believe"? Because that's what the Chinese Communist Party wants. Blind obedience, zero questions. The Nanjing Massacre, more like the Nanjing Number Inflation Project. And today, we're going to dismantle one of the most sacred cows in CCP propaganda, brick by brick. Buckle up. The Chinese government insists that during the 1939 Nanjing Massacre, the Japanese army slaughtered 300,000 people. Not 250,000, not 180,452, nope, exactly 300,000. As if genocide came with a receipt and someone triple-checked the mess. You know what else came in exactly 300,000? CCP lies. They carved this number in stone, literally, at the Nanjing Massacre Memorial Hall. A giant stone wall screens 300,000 victims. It's not history. It's trauma weaponized. It is a political tool. Here's the twist. The original estimates by Chiang Kai-shek's ruling nationalist government right after the war, less than 50,000. Yes, the guys who hated Japan and had every reason to inflate the numbers for sympathy didn't. Still horrific, still criminal, but 300,000? That didn't show up until the 1980s, right when the CCP was looking to rally nationalist pride and distract from, the Cultural Revolution's mass graves. You can't let your people focus on Mao Zedong's Great Leap Forward that killed 45 million, so give them a cartoon villain in Japan. Classic CCP misdirection. Don't look at our crimes, look at theirs. Now, let's talk numbers, real ones. In 1939, Nanjing had a population of about 200,000 to 250,000 after the elites and many civilians fled. So tell me, math geniuses, how do you kill 300,000 people in a city with fewer than 250,000? What did the Japanese do? Import extra corpses? Maybe they had a murder one get two free promotion? And here's the real kicker. The entire Japanese invasion force was around 50,000 troops. They were low on supplies, they were trying to occupy a massive country, and somehow they had the time to execute 300,000 people individually in 6 weeks. I did the math. That's around 7,000 people killed every day. Roughly 5 people every single minute. For 42 days straight. No bathroom breaks, no reloading, no sleep. And here's where the 300,000 claim really starts tripping over itself. The atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima killed about 140,000 people by the end of 1945. That was instant vaporization, radiation burns, and a mushroom cloud turning the whole city into ash. One weapon, one day. But according to the CCP, the Japanese army in Nanjing, with rifles and maybe a few grenades, managed to kill more than twice that number in 6 weeks, while still conquering the city, running patrols, guarding prisoners, and actually fighting a war. So let me get this straight. The Japanese soldiers in Nanjing were somehow twice as efficient at mass killing as the most destructive weapon humanity had ever created. Wow. Hollywood should hire these guys, apparently. They were more efficient than John Wick. And here's another thing nobody in a CCP's patriotic education classes wants you to think about. I went to law school, and I learned in the evidence class that if a court tries to convict you of murdering, let's say, 10 people, they need to provide exact names, dates, and details for each victim, right? Not some vague, some people somewhere bullshit, but a full list: who they were, how they died, where they were found. Now, if we were talking about 300,000 murders, you would expect 300,000 names, right? A database, detailed casualty records, family testimonies, especially if this was the defining national tragedy. Guess what? They don't exist. Even the giant Nanjing Massacre Memorial, with all its emotional lighting, dramatic music, and the towering 300,000 stone, does not have a complete list of victims. It has a few thousand names. That's it. The rest? Just numbers carved in propaganda wallpapers. Now, compare that with the Holocaust memorials in Tel Aviv. They have millions of names, painstakingly collected over decades, with dates, hometowns, photos, documents, and sometimes even last letters written by the victims. You can look them up. You can trace their lives. You can verify the tragedy in black and white. The Holocaust's 6 million victims are not just a number. They are individuals, remembered in heartbreaking detail. The Nanjing 300,000, they are not individuals in the CCP's version of history. They are props. They are headcount for political theater. And that is the difference between real historical record and manufactured national myths. So why does the CCP cling to 300,000? Because it's not about truth. It's about control. That number is the emotional nuke they drop every time Japan even thinks about standing up to China geopolitically. Every time Japan builds a military base, boom, remember Nanjing. Every time Japan talks about Taiwan, boom, war crimes. It's weaponized grief. It is trauma turned into state-sponsored theater. And if you dare to question it, you are labeled a denier, a revisionist, or worse, pro-Japan. Sorry, but I can condemn war crimes and call BS on inflated propaganda at the same time. Now, let's get to the good part. What do actual scholars say? Not Xi Jinping's propaganda office. Historians like Ikuhiko Hata estimate the death toll to be between 30,000 to 40,000. Still a massacre, still a tragedy, but grounded in actual records, And here's something nobody wants to say out loud. War is hell. But the CCP doesn't want truth. They want trauma porn. They need that number to be high because it justifies the never-ending victim narrative. It justifies censorship and anti-Japan sentiment. It justifies the party's monopoly on patriotism. They scream, never forget. But what they really mean is never question. Look, I grew up in a Chinese school. Every December the 13th, they made us bow our heads, wear black, and watch those documentaries filled with fake bones and crying grandmas. We didn't learn history. We were programmed. You weren't allowed to ask, where did these bodies go? Why don't foreign journalists report 300,000? What were the nationalists saying back then when they were actually looting China? Nope. You had to just chant like a robot. The Japanese killed 300,000. We must never forget. The CCP saved China. But the more I studied real history, the kind with footnotes and actual evidence, the more I realized the CCP doesn't really care about those victims. They care about narrative control. And that's the real dark comedy. The CCP cries for Nanjing's death, but never talks about the Tiananmen Square massacre, the Great Leap Forward famine, the Cultural Revolution suicides, the Uyghur concentration camps, the lockdowns that starved people inside buildings. It's funny how never forget apply only when it suits the regime. You ask about the millions killed by Mao, and suddenly they say, hey, let's move forward. But question Nanjing, you're a traitor, a monster, a war crimes apologist. Nah. I just want real history, not state-sponsored trauma cosplay. Was there a massacre in Nanjing? Yes. Was it brutal? Yes. Was it 300,000? Not a chance in hell. That number is a political fiction. A nationalist bedtime story written by people who kill Jews for a living. So next time someone says the Japanese killed 300,000 in Nanjing, just ask, okay, show me the names. Show me the math. Show me the original sources. How did you arrive at this number? Because questioning inflated death tolls doesn't make you a denier. It makes you a historian. And in a world ruled by lies, that might just be the most revolutionary thing you can be. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.